Q's tech service says, did you hear the news, Lewis? They are going to start to stop the leaks of schematics from Apple now. The cab files. It was on 9 to 5 Mac News, possibly no more schematics falling off trucks. Let's see. Report. Apple reduces the number of factory secrecy staff, cracking down on CAD schematics leaks. An article from The Information Today covers a breakdown of the lengths that factory workers have gone to get parts of unreleased iPhones into the black market and Apple's countermeasures to tackle the issue and maintain high levels of product secrecy. Most interestingly, the report says that Apple is actually reducing the number of staff it has assigned to catching leaks of factory parts and is instead focusing on cracking down on the leaking of CAD drawings and schematics, just like the schematics we've seen this year showing the iPhone 11's design. Naturally, leaks of unreleased iPhone hardware can be sold on the black market for many times the floor worker's standard salary. What? Apple has steadily ramped up efforts to prevent... maybe... This is one of those things where it's... Maybe if the floor worker wasn't paid like shit, there'd be some loyalty there. Like if I have proprietary information that's really important to me, and I have an employee accessing it, one of the things that I try to do is make sure that employee is compensated to a point where it's actually not worth it for him to just try and take that one-off, getting himself a lick and selling the data to somebody else or the supplier list or something like that, because the job doesn't suck. That's one of the first things that I would consider here. It says the information's report describes a whole manner of ways the factory employees have smuggled enclosures or parts out of an iPhone factory. One particularly bad case was in the iPhone 5C era, when a worker commandeered a truck full of thousands of colorful iPhone 5C cases out of the gates. Okay, that's kind of messed up. In other cases, the report says that factory workers have tried to dig tunnels as a way to secretly get iPhone parts out. Wow, Shawshank Redemptioning it. Apple enforces strict security measures on its contractors' factories, including the addition of metal detectors for not just employees coming and leaving work, but also trash. Trash! As part of the supplier agreement, factories must let Apple security members inspect the plants at any time. Factories are fined in the range of tens of millions of dollars if leaks happen. However, the report says that leaks from Foxconn is not subject to fines. The scale of the iPhone assembler allowed it to negotiate better terms. AKA, we're making all your shit for pennies. I dare you to fine us and build your own phone. I dare you to fine us, is what Foxconn's saying there. In the Outlines report from 2017, an Apple executive was quoted as saying that more leaks now come from inside Apple's headquarters in Cupertino, California than from the supply chain. It seems Apple has successfully reduced the amount of leaks coming from supply chain in terms of physical hardware, but is struggling to prevent the CAD files from being photographed or distributed. As security measures around factory components have improved, it can now reduce the size of the team called the New Product Security Team. The information says Apple has lowered the NPS headcount and outsourced some initiatives. However, it is dedicating additional resources to try and curtail schematics leaks, written by Benjamin Mayo. And he's linking to an article from The Information. I'm kind of curious about that. I prefer to go to the primary source whenever possible. So let's see what they're going on about here. And it looks like I need a subscription, so we are going to log in and check this out later. You know what? Nah, screw it. I'll do it now. I will subscribe. Let's see. As long as you don't make it painful to register. Alright, so just don't make it painful to register and we'll get the rest of the story. Please don't make it painful to register. $39 a month? You fucking... Okay, this better be a good fucking article. But I don't want to be billed monthly, though. I want to view this one fucking article. Alright. Fine. I will get this article. We're going to read it. That's worth it. Maybe some good information. Shit, journalism, I could always file a chargeback. Alright, so let me get the card that has easy chargebacks in case this article sucks. Let's see. Or in case they don't let me cancel my subscription. I'll do it. You guys are worth it. 4 and 4. Fine. Okay. At the very least, just let me pay for 1 month. Don't fucking auto-subscribe me, assholes. Okay. Okay, so I paid. We came. We paid. He died. All right, let's read the story. Inside Apple factory thefts, secret tunnels, hidden crawl spaces. 6 years ago, a warehouse employee at one of Apple's top suppliers, Jabil, stole thousands of iPhone 5C casings from a factory in China before the product was announced. The employee, with help from a security guard, falsified documents and avoided security cameras as he drove a truck filled with the candy-colored shells out of the gates, according to 3 people familiar with the matter. The incident, which hasn't been previously reported, was one of the most devastating leaks to come out of Apple's supply chain, the people said. Images of the iPhone 5C in suit appeared on the internet, spoiling the reveal at the company's carefully choreographed media event that September. Jabil didn't respond to a request for comment. The audacious theft. I went to a New York City public school. Don't judge me. The audacious theft was a wake-up call for Apple. In the years following, Apple created the new product security team, known as NPS, in China to monitor security at its most sensitive suppliers. The team ultimately put a stop to most device leaks and discovered some... Man, I really can't read. Am I this fucking illiterate? Let's see.
Audacious.
God damn it, I was right the first time. Audacious. Fuck. And discovered some audacious attempts. Such as some factory workers who tried to build a tunnel to transport components to the outside without security spotting them. I'm sorry, when people are going through, even if it's something I'm not exactly a fan of, when you're straight up Shawshank Redemptioning it, I gotta hand it to you. Let's see. Last year, Apple began to trim the team and is now moving some of the work to contractors, according to people familiar with the team. We were in wartime before, but now we're in peacetime, said one former team member. In recent years, a new security threat has emerged, electronic leaks. Most leaks of the next iPhone, for example, have been in the form of schematics, which have revealed it will have 3 rear-mounted cameras, but little else in terms of design changes. Apple has shifted more resources to stopping these electronic leaks, 2 people familiar with the matter say. Those efforts are mostly handled by a separate group managed out of Apple's headquarters in Cupertino, California. How Apple stamped out physical leaks is a model that competitors such as Google, Samsung, and LG are now trying to replicate. Apple security guidelines, which are also aimed at preventing corporate espionage, have taken on greater significance given revelations about efforts by Chinese smartphone giant Huawei to steal technology from competitors, including Apple. Apple's NPS team was first described by the news website The Outline in 2017. The information spoke to 7 people familiar with Apple's supplier security practices and also reviewed an internal Apple document detailing security responsibilities for suppliers. Types of leaks. Apple security efforts are mainly concerned with halting the physical or electronic leaks of parts such as the glass, metal, and plastic casings that house the iPhone's components. Known as enclosures, leaks of these parts can reveal the dimensions and features of a product. Individuals who leak parts or images of parts do so for different reasons. People familiar with Apple security policy say, some post photos of unreleased devices on social media to gain popularity. Wow, really? Like when I was a kid, getting the new GT bike made you popular. Now leaking a photo of the new iPhone. Like not even look at the cool thing I have. It's, hey, look at the cool thing that I have a picture of. Wow. I'm starting to get old. I really am getting to that point where it's like, you know, when I was a kid, things were right. When I was a kid, kids used to brag about things that they got, not pictures of things that they don't own. Kids these days. Some others. Crap. Where's my alert? It went away. Wait, that's crazy. It went away that fast? What did you say? And why did it go away that fast? What the fuck? Son of a... Okay. Somebody left a read. If somebody in chat could read to me what that said, that would be awesome, because I missed that. I'm sorry. Some leakers sell unreleased parts to local businesses that either want to build counterfeit products or learn how to repair Apple devices. Employees can earn an amount equivalent to a year's salary for stealing iPhone enclosures depending on how early in the development process they are stolen, these people say. Some factory workers have hidden sensitive parts in crawl spaces and later return to retrieve them when security guards aren't looking. Employees have hidden parts and used mop water, tissue boxes, shoes, and under-discarded metal shavings. Oh my god. A factory worker was once caught hiding parts in his belt buckle, hoping security guards wouldn't pat down that area. So this actually ties in with something I've been telling all you about for a while. So let me just show you what I've been talking about, because this is actually relevant. So. So, when I used to get donor boards, I used to be able to get boards that look like this, right? So these, you pay 12 to 20 bucks. I get a board. It's useless. It doesn't have any RAM on it. It doesn't have a CPU on it. It has a hole patched through it usually. These boards are, for the most part, totally useless, but they have chips like the SMC, the System Management Controller, that I cannot buy with programming from Apple for any amount of money because Apple. And one of the things that's useful is being able to buy these things just to have the spare parts that I'm not allowed to buy or that I don't have sources for. Now with the new machines, we've been going into this new bullshit where I don't get the full donor board. I get, like the breast or the thigh or the wing. It's like you have to choose. You can't just buy a donor board anymore. It's again, breast, thigh, wing, you get little pieces of it. I want the whole fucking board, but I can't get that. So this is what we get. And the thing that can occasionally be frustrating is when they cut them, sometimes there's a part that's left out. So all the chips in this area of the board, it'll be something like every chip that's like right along this section won't be there. And it's annoying because it's one thing that, it's one thing that's aggravating where after 10 years in this business, showing that you are at the top of your field, having lines out the door of happy, satisfied customers that were happy to write positive things about your business, people that, that got data back that they otherwise wouldn't have machines working that they couldn't afford to get working at the Apple Store, that I have to dumpster dive and take my parts off of dead boards with holes in them that I get from China to get shit to work again. It's an entirely other point of degradation, just being degraded, that now I can't even buy I can't even buy scrap. I have to buy cut up pieces of scrap and try to piece them together to get the parts that I need, and that sucks. And I noticed that with the touch bar. So I have not been able to buy a single A1706, A1707, or A1708 donor board in one piece. They all come like this, and I only imagine it's because they're hiding this stuff up their ass or something to be able to sell it. A woman at Jabal once hid dozens of glass screens in her bra, but was caught by security guards after they noticed her unusual style of walking. Apple once caught factory workers digging a small tunnel in a corner of a room behind a large piece of machinery, hoping to use it to ferry stolen parts to the outside world. People were chipping away little by little at the wall, Shawshank Redemption style. I said it first, the person said. Wow. Scrapping companies, which help Apple suppliers destroy prototypes and defective parts, have also been a source of leaks. Apple once traced leaked enclosures to a major scrapping vendor, Singapore's TSM. Apple removed the company from its approved list of vendors for a year, but was forced to restore it because its options were limited, a person familiar with the matter said. TSM didn't reply to a request for comment. Apple supplier security policies require an Apple employee or an Apple-approved contractor to be physically present when scrap is destroyed. Leaks can also come from Apple's packaging and printing contractors. One worker snuck a smartphone into a printing factory in 2017 and was able to take photos of an instruction manual for the iPhone X before its release. Apple quickly revised its policies to begin auditing these types of contractors many more months in advance, one person familiar with the matter said. Many of Apple's stolen parts end up in China's largest electronics market, known as Huajiangbei. We'll just stick with that. In the technology hub of Shenzhen. Apple routinely sends undercover employees and contractors to hunt for, buy back, and trace stolen parts, according to people familiar with the matter. In one instance before the iPhone X was released, a business that teaches technicians how to repair Apple devices had access to leaked glass screens for the new phone and began holding classes on repairing the screens. Apple secretly enrolled a contractor in the class to trace the source of the leaks, the person said. A year after the iPhone 5C theft at Jabal, Apple's investigators discovered and purchased 180 iPhone 6 enclosures made available for sale on the black market before the device was released, returning them to Jabal's top security officer. Jabal caught the 2 employees responsible, a night shift supervisor and an engineer who manipulated an inventory tracking system to make the parts appear as if they were indefinitely in process of manufacturing, according to a person with direct knowledge of the matter. Apple struggled to prosecute the leakers, the person said. To make a strong criminal case, Apple must provide detailed descriptions of the parts to Chinese law enforcement, which the company is unwilling to do, people familiar with the matter say. In China, Apple is unable to prosecute thieves based on the intellectual property of the stolen parts, which means thieves pay penalties based on the street value only, 2 people familiar with the matter said. Often, Apple doesn't even involve local law enforcement as it doesn't want to draw attention to unreleased products, one of the people said. So this is very interesting. This is interesting. So Apple believes that the Chinese government, they don't trust the law enforcement to not leak the information in that country, so they decide that. And here's the point that I come back to time and time again is, I understand and respect that Apple is. Here's the thing. It comes back to this video I did a few years ago where I say, if you're going to be the bitch, be the whole bitch, right? So you want to have this stuff assembled for pennies. You want to build up your $1 trillion empire with $200 or $300 billion in the bank. That's by doing business in China. That's cool, but China has different rules than you do when it comes to intellectual property. So you can't go to the law enforcement about it because you would have to submit stuff to them that you don't really want to do because you don't want to submit your intellectual property before it's out yet. Deal with it. I mean, this doesn't really get me much. This doesn't get much sympathy from me here. I'm not a fan of people stealing crap. Like, if you're stealing cases by the boatload, that's wrong. But I think there's differences between somebody leaking a schematic and somebody leaking thousands and thousands of screens. I also think it's different based on who's paying for it. So I'm kind of curious. Is it Apple paying for the screen, and then or Apple's paying for the parts to it, then sending it to an assembler? Or Apple just says, here's $1 million, make this many screens for us today. And regardless of what fuckery the factory does, Apple pays the same amount of money. So if that factory builds 1,000 of those screens, and or they build 1,100 and then 100 are stolen, whatever it is, that Apple paid this much money for 1,000 screens, they're getting that amount of screens for this much money. I think that's going to change it a little bit from my perspective. If you're paying a flat rate to the factory to get something out, that's different than if you say, here's all my materials, factory, assemble them for me, and then the materials that you put at the factory wind up leaving out the door. I'm not saying it's right to just run in and take stuff, but it is one of the things that comes up in my mind. Now, and the other thing that obviously comes up in my mind is, you really seem to be clamping down on intellectual property while at the same time doing business in a country that fundamentally has a culture of not respecting intellectual property, and then you complain about it with your $200 or $300 billion. Again, it's just, my heart, sympathy. Now, the next thing that I am thinking about here is, well, where is the demand coming from? So when they say that that a year's salary can just be, these employees can get paid a year's salary just because something gets leaked. Why? Now, if this is happening because these are parts that are being used for independent repair, it does make me wonder if that demand on the front end for that causes this incentive to steal shit or to dig tunnels would go away if Apple simply provided parts for repair. If this is happening on the leak end, or like the Boy Genius Report kind of leak end, where these websites will get vast amounts of traffic and vast amounts of ad revenue if they can post a leaked photo of the new iPhone, then I don't see how you're getting rid of that. I don't see how you're getting rid of that, because that demand is always going to be there for people to see what it is you released pre-release. Pre-release leaks there's always going to be a demand for. I don't think Apple can really control that. I do think that they can control if the demand for these leaks is because people want to learn how to repair the product, or they want to be able to buy the parts to repair the product. A big part of this, I'm guessing, has to do with people wanting to buy parts or wanting to buy chips or wanting to buy screens, and there's a large demand for that because Apple put so much effort in to make it impossible. Would people be hiding glass? I can't imagine, when they said a bunch of people were hiding glass screens in their chest. I mean, that's painful. I just can't imagine. I can't imagine stuffing 30 or 40 of those glass screens into my bra, especially in the iPhone 4 and 4S days when you had those little really sharp, those 3 C-shaped clips on each end. Like, ugh, just never. That sounds painful. But would the demand to do that be there if you could only get $1 or $2 for each of those parts that you stole? Probably not. And if you made the parts available, then maybe there wouldn't be such a demand for them to be leaked. But anyway, let's continue reading. Before creating the new product security team, Apple operated a group of about 10 security assessors in China who visited suppliers once every few months to check their security. But the NPS team created after the Jabal theft operated differently. It recruited former U.S. military and intelligence people fluent in Chinese, many of whom had backgrounds in physical security, to be supplier security managers. It also employed an army of third-party auditors tasked with going to factories on a weekly basis. The team at one point topped more than 30 people and remains the largest of its kind when compared with Apple's competitors. Apple's supplier security managers assess more than 100 factories handling unreleased products. Suppliers receive scores weekly based on their physical and electronic security to determine whether they can continue working for Apple. If scores are too low, Apple withholds schematics and refuses to allow suppliers to begin mass production. Each year, Apple sends a confidential document to its suppliers outlining their security responsibilities. The document includes basic guidelines on physical and electronic access, but also drills down into an unprecedented level of detail for some measures, such as how to operate security checkpoints and track inventory. Occasionally, Apple security policies have gotten pushback. Pregnant workers have complained about the use of metal detectors at facilities that make new products, only to be told they would have to change to less sensitive roles if they weren't willing to submit to screening. Apple security policies specifically say no exceptions can be made for pregnancy. So, pregnant women are the key to getting schematics. Note taken. Female employees at Apple's largest iPhone assembler, Foxconn Technology, have complained that they have to wear metal-free bras to get past metal detectors, according to one person familiar with the matter. Foxconn even opened shops outside its factory gates to sell special bras, the person said. So, I'm just going to take a wild guess that you ain't getting paid a lot of money at Foxconn. So they're going to have a metal detector that you can't go through if you're wearing a bra. So they're going to make you, while you're getting paid that probably half of what you get paid to work at McDonald's wage. Oh, by the way, if you want to work here, you have to buy your bra. Oh, man, that is adding insult to injury. You have to buy a special bra to go to work for Foxconn so that you can assemble a phone that probably your yearly salary would not pay for. I shouldn't laugh. This isn't funny. But it is. But it's not funny. The fact that it's not funny is what makes it funny. Actually funnier. Let's continue the document. To prevent theft, Foxconn once floated the idea of making employees wear skin-tight suits. Okay, Harvey Weinstein. Apple rejected the idea, deeming it too invasive, two people familiar with the matter said. Foxconn didn't respond to a request for comment. While Apple requires suppliers to provide its security managers with unfettered access to factories, occasionally they are met with resistance. Samsung, which made the display for the iPhone X, good evening, Kopaz, once refused entry to an Apple security manager out of concern the manager could steal its manufacturing techniques. A compromise was eventually reached where the security manager could walk through the factory but couldn't stop, a person familiar with the matter said. I like the fact that Foxconn is... Oh, it's Samsung who made this... Yeah, Samsung makes displays for the iPhone X. Once refused... Okay, not Foxconn. I get that. Yeah, like, you want to sue us every other week for something that we made that you say we infringed a patent on. You still want to use us for our NAND and our memory and our screens. That's fine. You want to inspect our facility? Here, keep it moving. I like that. I like the way Samsung and Foxconn are manhandling Apple here. That kind of brings a tear to my eye. Security responsibilities. Apple's security measures are constantly being refined as leakers adapt and try to circumvent its policies. Suppliers must now make sure containers storing parts are opaque, but that large trash bags are clear and screened from metal before they are removed from the premises. Storage containers must be sealed with tamper evidence stickers, which also require their own serial numbers. The components themselves must have unique serial numbers that can be traced back to specific factory lines. Inventory must be counted daily, and the quantity of scrap parts must be reported weekly. Apple requires suppliers to operate physically separate computer networks to handle the manufacturing of unreleased products. For computer-assisted drawings, or CADs, of unreleased products, Apple requires additional computer network walled off inside of the first network. Apple CAD files must be watermarked and include unique color patterns, known as color bars, to discourage employees from taking screenshots. Further, Apple doesn't allow the use of third-party services such as Google Enterprise and Dropbox, and it prohibits public email services such as Google, Yahoo, and Hotmail for communicating with Apple. Last year, Apple added a few more electronic controls. It now mandates computer networks hosting CAD files use two-factor authentication and run Windows 7 or later, which is more secure. Then what? It now mandates computer networks are you running Windows 7 or later, which is more secure. Then what? What were you guys using before? Windows 98? More secure than what? Please tell me you weren't using Windows 98. I mean, please tell me you were, because it would be terrible if those schematics wound up continuing to get leaked so that people like me could have access to them. Because that would be morally wrong. Meanwhile, Apple suppliers are forbidden from referring to Apple by name or its project code names anywhere in the buildings. Suppliers must reimburse Apple for investigations. Oh, we're closed. We're so closed. The gate is down. The door is closed. The sun is falling. We are closed. Okay, he gets the idea. Suppliers must reimburse Apple for investigations and often must pay penalties when leaks are traced back to them. Oh, come on, suppliers. Grow a pair, please. Please grow a pair. Jabal, for example, is liable for $25 million in penalties if leaks occur, according to a person familiar with the matter. The supplier has spent millions of dollars to upgrade its security since the iPhone 5C theft, people familiar with the matter said. Jabal workers now use facial recognition cameras to enter factory lines. The supplier now operates an extensive network of security cameras that cover its facilities, spending about $600,000 per building. It also employs around 600 security guards, overseeing about 50,000 workers at factories in China. Foxconn was one of the largest sources of iPhone enclosure leaks as it employed hundreds of thousands of workers in Shenzhen, according to people familiar with the matter. However, it is one of a handful of Apple suppliers that can't be fined for leaks because of strong leverage against Apple, according to 3 people familiar with the matter. Foxconn is Apple's biggest supplier of the iPhone, providing everything from the production of small components to the final assembly of the devices. Apple leaks ebb and flow based on whether there are significant design changes from year to year. One person close to Apple suppliers said there haven't been as many leaks in recent years as the designs of the last few iPhones have been similar. AKA, there's not even a reason for us to leak new designs because they're just taking the last year's phone and pretty much re-releasing it with a different name anyway. Much innovation. Good job, Tim Cook. The motivation isn't there when there isn't a design change, the person said. And as you can see, there are no comments because, well, I'm the only member of this website since it costs $40 to read the article. Very interesting. Very interesting article. So, yeah, I guess some of the points here are, well, I can only imagine the effort that somebody went through to get me a CD3215 before I was able to buy them. People are digging little trenches out of the factory. They're taking their little rock hammer and doing this all day when the security guard is looking the other way, making deals probably to split the profits 50-50 with the security guard, just so that I can get a CD3215 so that when you spill liquid on your MacBook or when you use a knockoff charger, it can charge again without you giving the Apple Store $1,250. It's absolute insanity. But this is what we go. There's a lot of work that goes into all the stuff that we do. So, when people, when I say it's going to be 2 to 5 business days to fix something that's one of the newer products, and people go, and, the spoiled brat will go, fine. I don't think they have any idea what people are actually going through for us to get access to an ISL 9240, for us to be able to buy a CD3215. There's a lot of work and effort that goes into us being able to get a MUX chip so that when 52 volts goes to your CPU, that we can work on it. Needs more Oreo. Needs less Oreo. I don't know. Well, they turned up the heat. They did turn up the heat. But I have schematics for the A1990, A1989, and A1932, meaning that Apple, I'm going to be able to continue repairing your products from this very store, at the very least, for the next 3 to 4 years, because you don't change board design very often. I'm going to be sitting here doing exactly what it is that you don't want me to do for the next 3 to 4 years. So you keep spending money on these investigations. You keep spending millions and millions of dollars putting up facial recognition cameras, getting all these security guards, having audits done of the facility, hiring ex-military as your management. I still have schematics, and I will for the next several years. So suck it. That's it for today, and as always, I hope you learned something.